What's up guys, it's Justin. Most of you know me and are familiar with my work, but if you are new to this channel, welcome. I've been in love with elevators ever since I was a little kid. In 2012 I started filming elevators, and in 2015 I opened this channel. This is not a video about elevators, surprisingly. This video is about a place that is very special to me, a place that ended up having a bigger part of my life than I thought it would. My past experience with a lot of filming and a lot of photography made me want to create this video dedicated to Macy's in downtown Sacramento. Not just because, you know, it has some cool elevators, of course, inside of it, but because it's a very special place that I made a lot of memories in and a lot of friends in. Over the years that I've been here, I've heard a lot of customers talk about how they've been shopping here ever since they were little, or they remember coming to the grand opening and this is their place to go, you know? So a lot of people appreciate this store and are grateful for, you know, what it has to offer. I really wanted to make something to remember the store. I created this video in hopes that later down the road people will look back at it and, you know, remember what used to be, you know, in this spot. Whatever they build, a hotel, a luxury mall, or whatever, people aren't gonna know there used to be a Macy's store here. To a lot of people, it might just be a store, you know, it's just another Macy's store. But for the people that worked here, like myself, it means a lot. Every single nook and cranny of this store I've explored and I've documented, just because old department stores like this one are always interesting. There are so many rooms in this building, there are so many interesting things, historical architectural elements that a lot of people wouldn't really notice. My interest in elevators relates to architecture, and I noticed a lot of things that I will be pointing out throughout this video. A handful of my colleagues were kind enough to contribute to this video by allowing me to interview them to talk about their experience working here, and I've decided to implement their thoughts and their comments into this video to make it a little more meaningful, you know, for the people who don't realize that this is more than just a department store. Enough yapping. I'm sure you guys are anxious to get into the video, so I hope you all appreciate and enjoy this documentary that I've put together. Enjoy. In the 1960s, the redevelopment of downtown Sacramento was underway, with the demolition of the majority of buildings in the West End taking place. A vast amount of new land was made available, and developers proposed the addition of a massive Macy's department store to the city of Sacramento, which would become the main anchor for a new commercial project known as the K Street Mall. The new store would be a whopping 330,000 square feet building and would take up an entire city block. John Bowles of San Francisco, who was also the architect of Candlestick Park, designed several buildings across the Bay Area to Sacramento, which included 17 department stores from Macy's, California. The downtown Sacramento location was one of them, and in 1962, the Dinwiddie Construction Company began work on this giant department store. Construction of the store cost a total of $13 million to complete, and on November 4th, 1963, the store held its grand opening, just in time for the holidays. The ribbon was cut by Governor Pat Brown, accompanied by Miss California and Ernest Malloy, the president of Macy's at the time. When this store opened, it was the largest department store in Sacramento. This was the 7th branch store in Macy's West and the 46th store to be owned and operated by Macy's. It was a flagship location and at the time was one of the largest new department stores in the entire United States since World War II. It also featured an underground garage that could accommodate up to 200 vehicles. The store boasted an air-conditioned interior with extra-wide escalators and larger elevators, and at the time of opening, there were close to 800 employees. Growing up, Macy's was part of Westfield Downtown Plaza Mall, and right in front of the store was a glass elevator. This is the elevator that really made an impression on me, and it's the reason why I love elevators so much. Over the years, my family would come to this mall fairly often, and I would always want to ride this Montgomery elevator. My grandma even drove me all the way to this mall multiple times just so I can spend hours going up and down. I'm pretty confident that everyone in my family got sick and tired of it. Of course, with how often we came to this mall, Macy's ended up being a big part of my childhood. This place was like a huge playground. My early years were spent walking the floors of this store with my family, and taking a ride on the Montgomery elevators and escalators was just a normal thing for me to do. I never thought that one day I'd end up working at the very store I grew up going to, and for so long at that. So I actually started working here right after I graduated high school. It was just supposed to be a summer job. I applied and I started out as a signer. So I was never here when the store opened. I would come in at 6 a.m. and by 10 a.m. I'd be going home. I never saw the store open. It wasn't until later down the road I started doing other things like merchandising. And I eventually became the merchandiser for the third floor houseware department. And that's where I've been ever since. What started out as just a summer job turned into, oh, do you want to stay until Christmas? Sure. I stayed through the holidays, and then I ended up staying another year, and another year after that. I've been here for almost 6 years. In May, it would have been 6 years at this store. I never thought that it would last that long. It was just supposed to be a little side job, until I found some place in the elevator industry. And even though I have now, I still cannot let this place go. And that's because of the people that I've met here. If all of my friends and all of the people that I've met left, I probably wouldn't be here anymore. Because it's them that keep me coming back every day, seeing everyone every day. Plus, we got some pretty cool elevators and escalators in here. So that's all jokes aside, I've really enjoyed my experience working here. I've met a lot of good people, and some of my best friends are the people that I've met here. I don't even call them coworkers. They're like some of my closest friends now. For a lot of people, it's the same way. And that's why a lot of us are really sad that it's closing. Before I go inside the actual store, I have to talk about the exterior of this building. I mean, just look at it, it's beautiful. The architecture is so unique, and the building itself really stands out from the modern, newly constructed structures surrounding it. The facade of the building consists of black marble and granite veneer with an exposed aggregate concrete finish. Those recessed grills are made of vitrified clay. This store was built on a slope, so there is an elevated walkway on the L Street side that goes from the street up to the first floor. Also on the L Street side are the only windows on the upper part of the building, both of which are in stairwells. The arched overhang that extends along the entire top of the store is concrete and made up of 208 small holes. Yes, I counted them. On the mall side, the building has seen many changes throughout its lifetime. When this was the K Street Mall, there were fountains and planters that spanned from one side to the other. After the Downtown Plaza Mall was built, this side of the store faced an atrium that had a giant canopy above. In the center of the mall was a carousel and a glass elevator, as I mentioned earlier in the video. When Downtown Commons was built, nearly the entire existing mall was demolished, leaving only the portion closest to the second floor store entrance original. These skylights that you see right above the store entrance are some of the last things left of Downtown Plaza. Here's something that I would really like to point out. I find it really interesting that because there's a 2-level mall connected to Macy's, you are able to see part of the building you normally wouldn't be able to get so close to. You can literally touch the facade, which is something that was never possible before a 2-story mall was connected. Now I will begin the store tour, starting on the first floor. This is the entrance closest to the handbags department, to the right of what used to be Taste Bar, which is now Wetzel's Pretzels. This red wall that you see here is where At Your Service originally was. In 2022, this entire area was renovated and At Your Service was moved around the corner. The new space is huge compared to what it used to be.
Hi, my name is Hilary S, and I am the store manager, or I was the store manager at Downtown Sacramento. I've been the store manager from 2020 up until September of 2024. I've been with the company for 36 years. So I started out as a sales colleague working in wine stocks at the Country Club store, going to school at Sac State. And after that, I was there for about 8 years, and I was being heavily recruited by Maria Padilla to come work at Downtown Macy's. I was a junior sales manager working underneath Maria Padilla and Aram, who is currently my boss. So I was in this position for about probably 2 years working in the downtown location. And then from there I went to Arden Fair as an assistant store manager at the time, then Stockton, then back to Arden Fair as a store manager, and then COVID hit in 2020, and then I came over to downtown Sacramento in August of 2020. And I have to say, out of all the stores I worked in, downtown Sacramento is probably one of the best stores I worked in, and it's all because of the people. The people here in this store are absolutely amazing. And also what's iconic about the store is just the beauty of it. The store is one of the most beautiful stores I've ever worked in. The architecture is unbelievable, and the pride that people take in the store is just blown me away, and how loyal all the colleagues are. There's people in this building that have worked here for 28 years, 18 years, 17 years, and it's just remarkable of how much pride they have being in this wonderful store. And I am so sad that it's going to be leaving us, but there are so many memories and so many things that we cherish, even from our lovely little Santa parade that we do every year, and all the Make-A-Wish festivities that we've done in the store have been just remarkable of how we've given back to the community, and it's going to be sadly missed.
Hi, my name is Lisette. I go by Liz here. I got hired in 2015 November. My first day was actually Black Friday. I work women's shoes. I got hired women's shoes as a seasonal, and then I was hired as a full-timer. After all the years of being here, I think I have a pretty good background of like everything. I feel like I stayed here for so long because I built a lot of connections here, and like I live in West Sac. I used to like come here as a kid for back to school shopping. I remember like shopping here with my family when I was little. I just liked the environment, and it, like I knew what I was doing after all these years, you know, it's just comfortable. You know the routine, and then you know the people that you work with. My best friends actually came from Macy's, and it's really funny like thinking that like we're so different, the people that I'm friends with, but the only thing that we really have in common is that we met here. I think about Sue, and I think about Teresa, and I think about Caitlin, and I think about like all the friends that I made here. I think about Shy, I think about May. And I think about Abdullah. Those people mean a lot to me, and I want to be there for them, and they were my team. This store, it does mean a lot to me. It sucks, but I think I know it's not doing well. I don't want to leave, but it has to end, and I think bad things happen for a good reason, even though we don't know what for yet.
We are inside of the women's shoe stockroom. And while this may look like it's just a stockroom, this actually used to be a window, like a display window. You can see some remnants of it up there. But this whole white wall right here used to be a big glass display window. There's actually some old light switches here still for the track lights. Look at that. It's just storage now. Ow. If you look up there, you could see where all the lights used to hang. That would shine down on like the mannequins or whatever else they had displayed. The majority of the merchandise on the first floor has stayed the same throughout the years. Men's shoes and clothing, jewelry, fragrances, cosmetics, handbags, and women's shoes have always been on this floor. However, other departments such as intimate apparel, women's sportswear, luggage, and candy also used to be down here. There were also many other departments of products that we haven't carried in years. Liquor, wine, tobacco, and drugs are just a few. There was a restaurant called Lyon's, an optometrist office, and a tailor. This has always been the busiest floor of this store. There were over 60 fitting rooms and over 30 cash wraps on this floor alone. Compare those numbers with how many of each there are now. That's crazy. This is the men's shoes / finish line stockroom. And it has shoes in it. Wow. But something interesting is over here. This thing right here used to be a dumbwaiter. Like a mini elevator. There were two in this store. This one went up to the second floor, which is where I assume would be more shoes. And this would be used to transport them between floors. But it was removed a long time ago. You could see the shaft.
Well, my name is Stephen Muir, and I've worked for Macy's since 1996. However, my history with the building goes back even further to when it opened in 1963. I was 12 years old, and I remember, I didn't attend the opening, but I remember it. The store, we came soon after, bought Christmas presents for my mother, and I have very vivid memories of the store from that time. I actually started with Wine Stocks, which was a rival company, and then they were part of the Broadway, and they were purchased in 1995, and which is when I gradually came over to this store, and I've worked in all the different areas, and for a time when we had two buildings, I worked in the men's building. We had a Mark Morris automotive repair and tire center that was in the basement. It turned into a workspace and storage area, which we continued to call Mark Morris, which was always had to be explained to new associates. Why did we give the basement storage area a name? And so that was always kind of fun. It wasn't totally disassembled, so it's possible to see the lifts for the cars. You can see the shelving for tires. There's a lot of equipment in there that was remained, and we just worked around it. Another interesting feature and characteristic of stores built in the 60s and earlier, was the many services that were offered, one of which would be restaurants. And this store had a Lyon's restaurant on the first floor. We can still see the tile from it. It's now used as a stock room. When I started, it was used as for online and telephone shopping. It was a fulfillment center. At one time, when we had the mall, we had a Starbucks, we had a train store, we had various different businesses outside. They're gone now, but they were carved into the building. The second level was added in 93, so there would have been no entrance up on the second level, but the mall was remodeled in 93. Also, on the third floor, at the beginning, in the furniture department, and it's situated where furniture is now, presently, there was a huge turntable, and with room vignettes, and it was designed so that customers could walk onto the table as it was turning very slowly, much like the Seattle Space Needle, and there were 4 different rooms, and so that was very spectacular to me, as well as a sort of ornamental look, kind of like a beanstalk or with stairs that hung from the escalator well, where we have now, it's solid, we have a ledge there, but that was all open at one time. Bought my first VCR in this store. It was quite expensive at the time. I had to set up a home account. I paid it off in increments of, I think, $25 a month. I think it cost $600, $700, and this was in the 80s, like 1983 or so. But that was that was exciting. I love that whole video revolution of the 80s. I think one aspect of the store that always appealed to me was that we had, and particularly in this store, we had people who had worked here for many years. We say this all the time, but that we're a family. In many ways we are, with a kind of consistency that I really appreciate.
To the left of the L Street exit is a hallway which contains the restrooms, the cosmetics and fragrance stockroom, and an emergency stairwell. Downstairs in the basement level is where the loss prevention office is located, which is also known as the dungeon. I'm not going to show much of it, but here is where all of the cameras in the entire store are monitored. Pretty cool to see. Now let's head back upstairs. This is the cosmetics and fragrance stockroom. Now here's some really cool hidden history. In the men's department, if you get up on a really tall ladder and look behind these walls, you can see the original wallpaper and the mahogany wood that hasn't been painted white. Pretty neat, and nobody will really know about this unless you got up on a really tall ladder and looked over the wall.
I've been with Macy's since 2008. Seen a lot of changes come and go. When I first started with Macy's, there was a second store, and it was a men's store and a furniture store, and the third floor was storage and corporate offices. That was a really long time ago. That's when I first started. Worked with a lot of old pros that had been here for 20 some years plus, and they've all been retired since then. Had some interesting times, met a lot of nice people at Macy's. Some of them are still friends of mine, even though they don't work for Macy's anymore. You make lasting friendships, I think, at Macy's. And then you come across some not so good acquaintances, but those disappear really fast. One time there was I call him a Justin Bieber wannabe. He was young, he was little, he was blonde, quite energetic, and he would come around, especially at nighttime when you were closing, he'd say, "Hey, you want some help with the registers?" I'll go, "Sure, I'll take all his help." I was closing by myself. So then one day, he closed this one register, I looked at it, and it seemed to me the count was off, so I didn't pay attention until the next morning. I opened up the same register, and it was short almost $200. I'm going, what the? And so I called my manager over right away. This kid closed up this register, and it's short. They started watching him for over a week because they found out he had embezzled $5,500. So the good ending of the story was they used to pay out they still do some payouts, but 10% of the recovered stuff. So I got an extra $500 that week. I was quite happy about that. I was working in the old building. I had to come up here for something for office, for paperwork on the third floor here. And I'm coming back down. I'm coming down the escalator from third floor to second floor. And I look something and I see like somebody's wrestling with a woman on the ground. I'm going, what? And I was about to yell out, "Hey!" And then I realized it was Steve. He was dressing a mannequin. So I had to tell him about it afterwards. He laughed. He goes, "Oh my God, that must have looked pretty strange." I go, "Yeah, I did." And like I said, though, there's been a lot of nice people I've worked with. A majority of them have been super. Every Christmas time, there's always a bunch of new people coming in for a little bit. Some stay on, some don't stay on. But this was the premier store for the longest time in the whole Sacramento region. It was the first Macy's in this area. Then came Arden, and I'm not sure when the other ones came, but this is the original Macy's, and this is what everybody nowadays, some people have found out that Macy's is closing. They said, "But wait a minute, this is the original Macy's here in Sacramento." I go, "Yeah, I know, but it's not our fault. We were going to probably go for a few more years, but then there's circumstances beyond our control." And they're all sad about it because this is a good store. It was a classy store in the middle of downtown Sacramento. Good memories, good memory. And I worked with a lot of good people. Had good times.
You know, this store has an incredible history. And, I was very lucky to really have my first kind of senior leadership position here. I was always in the Bay Area, and I was offered the opportunity to be the assistant store manager here in a store that was a flagship store for Sacramento. It's one of the biggest stores on Macy's West, and certainly iconic at the time. So I'm currently now the division vice president of the North Bay Sacramento, Colorado, Nevada division, and have been with the company for 34 years. But I would tell you, when I wear my Hall of Fame hat at the end, when it's all over, downtown Sacramento is what the cap I'll be wearing for sure. The store has incredible meaning to me. Worked here as assistant store manager, left and ran a couple other stores in between, a store called Country Club, which is no longer with us in Sacramento, and then I opened the Roseville store. And hard to believe this, but Roseville, which is now the biggest store in Sacramento market, was not the biggest store at the time. Downtown Sacramento was the hub. This was the big guy, the flagship, as I mentioned, and had the opportunity to be the store manager here for several years, and it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. And definitely met some incredible people here, people that have gone on to become store managers, people have gone on to be division vice presidents. It's a store that is super important to the city. It's been here, and it's one of the most beautiful stores that we have in the fleet. And quite honestly, it's really tough for me. Starting here as my first senior leadership role, and then coming back as a store manager, and now being responsible for the store as a division vice president, and to see the last days and the last Christmas here is quite sad. We've done so many different things, whether it's the Santa Parade, and we used to sponsor the Macy's Theater of Lights for many years, which was a joy that we were able to bring the community together and light the great tree and experience that that happiness in the region. Certainly with all of the Make-A-Wish children that we have granted wishes to. And I just think about all the different memories. The store always had incredible heart and generosity over the course of time. And it's just who we were. It's just the spirit of the store. And I know that spirit's going to live on no matter what ultimately takes this spot. Downtown Sacramento Macy's will always be here to stay.
My name is Emmie, and I've been working here at Macy's since 2004. I started working in the second floor at clothing department, and after 1 year, they offered me to work in a cosmetic department as a beauty advisor. Macy is my second home because I have a lot of memories that I will cherish. I met a lot of friends, encountered different customers, and the important, I met my husband here. I am so sad that Macy is closing, and I cannot really describe what I felt when I find out that Macy's closing, because Macy's my second home for over 20 years. We treat each other as one family, so I'm really sad that it's signing off.
This was formerly the Lyon's restaurant and coffee shop. It featured a warm color scheme and was able to hold 160 customers. For the most part, the restaurant was in the shape of a circle, with tables and booths and a massive planter bed in the middle. There was a large canopy tent that covered the entire dining room area. Connected to the restaurant was a cocktail lounge known as the Lion's Den, which opened in December 16, 1963. The lounge had a capacity to seat 90 people. Both the restaurant and the cocktail lounge were operated by Lyon's Magnus. They closed during a large renovation of the store in the 80s, and the spaces were eventually combined and converted into the stockroom that you see now. You can still see some of the remnants of the original terrazzo floor. This white wall behind these shelves is covering the windows that used to look into the dining room. The windows can still be seen on the exterior of the building. This used to be the kitchen area, and most of the original floor is still intact. This room and the area next to it used to be walk-ins. Now here's something that most people probably don't know. This store actually had 2 mezzanine levels, and this was one of them. This used to be the employee area for Lyons. It's where the restrooms, locker rooms, and the break room used to be. Now the break room is used to cut vinyl lettering, while the restrooms and locker rooms were converted into offices, which are now just used as storage closets. In my opinion, this mezzanine level is one of the creepiest areas of the entire store. This right here is the light room, which is where all of the light bulbs for the store are kept. Some of them are new and some of them are old lights that no longer work. The majority of the stuff in this room was just thrown in here and forgotten about. This room was completely cleaned out to prepare for the store closure, and something very cool was revealed. The walls have Mont Elev painted on them, which obviously stands for Montgomery Elevator. That means this room was once storage for Montgomery Elevator Company. My guess is all of the parts used to fix the elevators and escalators used to be stored in this room. Very cool. This is the second of the 2 mezzanine levels in this store. This is the engineering room, which at one time was the main office for this division. At one time, there were on-site union engineers at our store. They all left after COVID, but all of the things in this room still remain. Ideally, everything you could possibly need to fix anything in this building would be found in this room. However, over time, Other companies have come in and picked through it all. Here's something really interesting. All around our store we have these little former security hideout areas, and this one would have looked at the first floor. A security guard would have sat inside of here all day long, just looking out the window to catch people who are stealing. So like this one looks over the men's floor. You can even go down here for like a face shot. There's another one right here. Now it's time to head down to the dock, but before we go downstairs, here is a look at our freight elevator. This is an absolutely massive freight elevator, manufactured by Montgomery Elevator Company, and it's still original from 1963. It's a dry-powered hydraulic elevator with a lifting capacity of nearly 9,000 pounds, which is like 50 people or so. When this elevator breaks down, and it's happened more times than I can count, we all struggle big time. All of the merchandise ends up having to be pushed through the garage and to the passenger elevators. Good times. Here's the dock itself. This is where all of the receiving and shipping takes place. It looks like an incinerator or some furnace or something. Oh, this is the trash chute that goes all the way up the building. Look at that. What is it? Combustion chamber. So it literally is just like, look, it's an incinerator to burn all the cardboard. That's really cool. Since the dock is in the basement of our store, trucks are required to go down a ramp from the street to get to the actual dock. There is very low clearance and very little room to maneuver. Because of this, our store receives smaller box trucks than most stores, since those are the only kinds that can fit down the truck ramp. There have been times where trucks that were way too tall would try to come down the ramp, and well, yeah, that happens. Anyway, back to the dock itself.
Alright everyone, my name is Omar C. I am the senior warehouseman here at Downtown Sacramento, location 406. I started back in 2004. I worked in the men's building for 15 years, and eventually our men's building got consolidated to this building, and that's how we ended up here, sharing one building. My job is basically on the logistics department, which is unloading and loading freight. A little bit more deep into detail is the freight trucks, furniture, unloading it, assembling it, and displaying it, along with mattresses and rugs too. So I pretty much lived in the furniture world. This store means a lot because it has a lot of history. I pretty much worked my whole young life here. It was basically a career for me. I learned my job really well. I was comfortable with it, and I just gained a lot of experience throughout the years. Just all the way around, this was just a great place to work at, and it was, to us, was our second home. It is sad that the store is going to shut down and it's going to close forever. Things I'm going to miss is obviously the routine of coming in, my job, and seeing the same people every day and catching up with them, and just seeing our regulars. Just overall, this place that's been our home for a long time, I'm going to miss it.
Aside from the dock, the basement level of the store is mostly underground parking. However, many people aren't aware that there was also originally a drive-in auto center in the corner, known as Mark Morris. It contained 10 fully equipped servicing bays where mechanics provided full car service and product installations, all while the customers shopped upstairs. Mark Morris sold everything auto-related, from tires to brakes to mufflers, which could be purchased on-site and installed on the same day. Mark Morris closed in the 80s, and even though it has been over 40 years, many of the auto shop-related details still remain. You can still see the original roll-up gates, complete with wooden handles. All of the car lifts are still in place, and while most are covered with fixtures, some are still visible. Even the original rack for the tires is still here. The back portion of the shop is now just used as storage for display elements used by the visual team. A few of the display elements are more notable than others.
These columns are from the Weinstock store at 12th and K, and when the store was closed in 1979 for the new store that was built on 7th, they were brought over, and we used them here on occasion. And I would estimate that they probably date back to the 50s or maybe 60s. This chest was part of a set, and it was used for the Japan promotion that was held in Weinstock's in 1985. And the basket adjacent to it was part of a whole set of baskets which we used on our ledges there, and those were inherited from Weinstock's.
As I stated at the very beginning of this video, when this garage is at maximum capacity, it is able to hold 200 vehicles. If you stand in the center and look up, you will see two slope protrusions from the ceiling. Those are actually the bottom of the two escalators on the first floor above. Just a cool little thing I had to throw in. Here is the machine room for the two passenger elevators. Now let's head back inside and check out the second floor. Of course, let's take one of the elevators upstairs. Just like the freight elevator, these elevators were manufactured and installed by the one and only Montgomery Elevator Company. They were bigger than your average elevator in the 60s, with the capability to lift 4,000 pounds each. The average capacity at the time was 2,500 pounds or less. This is the only original set of Montgomery elevators of this model that are left in the entire state of California. Who would have thought this door would be so cool?
Hi, I'm Chris. I joined Macy's in 2018. I came from Old Navy. I was recruited online through LinkedIn and decided to start my journey with Macy's. So super excited to join Macy's. It was beginning of a new time for me. I had just moved from Antelope back to Elk Grove, and I had a lot of things changing within my family. Working here at Macy's was my home. I left this store in September of 2024. Joining this company and this store meant new beginnings to me. I came to this store personally going through a lot and transitioning into being a single mom. And joining this store, I met a lot of my peers who became like my family, my team who became my family. I'm here, 50 hours a week. And we had a lot of great times here. We did a lot of team bondings. We always did the Santa Parade, which was a lot of fun. One thing about this store that I'll miss the most is the people. Because, again, here, 50 hours a week. So the bonds that we make and the connections that we make were really important here. I'm really sad that this store is closing just because, it's been here since 1963. I remember coming here shopping when I was little, and it's really sad just because the store is so nostalgic. It's such a beautiful store. When we first got the news, it was really surreal driving into work knowing that we were going to close somewhere that we spend so much time with. I'm going to miss coming in at 6 a.m., having our team meetings, and going around the floor and just talking, connecting with my team. I love not only this store, but I love my team because we got a lot of things done in a timely manner, and we made the store look beautiful. There's something about that and the satisfaction that you get with a job well done, That's something that I'm definitely going to miss about this store.
When I first started working here, this was the infants department. It wasn't until 2022 when we converted it into the toys department. Intimate apparel was where the infants, boys, and girls clothing currently sits, so we had to move all of it across the entire store to make way for the kids' clothing. Once that was done, we were able to create the toys department. Later that same year, Toys was converted into a store within a store under the name that we all know as Toys R Us. This was one of the biggest floor moves that I took part in. It was very rewarding once we saw the end result. In the corner of Toys R Us is a somewhat hidden door. This is one of the more interesting rooms of the store because it has some unique features inside of it. This room is only here now because when the store was renovated, a wall was built in front of the existing building walls, creating a gap between the two. Over here is another security hideout. This one is not in a dedicated room, but instead just an elevated platform for people to stand on. On the opposite side, past tons of mannequins and through a cutout in the wall, you can see a small piece of mahogany wood. This is one of the only unpainted pieces of wood that remain. Pretty neat. In the corner is a fan room. The second floor has one of these rooms in all four corners of the building. Just take a second and look at the quality craftsmanship here. Somebody did all of this manually. You have to remember that this store only took a little over a year to complete, yet they still took pride in little details like this. You don't really see that nowadays. This is the toy stock room, and inside of it is where the former alterations room was. We used to have tailors on site, and this was where they altered suits, coats, and other clothing. This room is just used as storage now, but most of the equipment that they use is still here. Also in the toys department is another slightly hidden room. This was one of the many former fitting rooms along the second floor walls. At one time, this floor had over 80 fitting rooms, the most out of any floor in the store. Inside of this room is an additional room. According to the floor plans, this was called the camera room, which was just loss prevention equipment storage. It still is today, and it's one of the most undisturbed rooms in the building. It's a time capsule of vintage equipment, tape recordings, and all kinds of other junk that hasn't been touched in years. In this room, you can see the top landing for the dumbwaiter that I showed earlier in the video. Also on the wall are vintage shipping labels to other local stores in our district, two of which have already closed prior to this video. Moving down the back wall and to the last act department, we come to one of the coolest rooms on this floor. This is one of the original fitting rooms and the most preserved one of all. It still has the old mahogany wood doors and phones in the fitting rooms themselves. This room is just used as storage now and is completely hidden from public view. The second floor used to contain the most merchandise out of the 3 floors in this building. Originally, this was the floor that the housewares department was on, along with bedding and toys. Just like the first floor, there were entire categories that haven't been sold in Macy's department stores for years. There was gardening equipment, tools, barbecues, paint, and even entire golf carts for sale on this floor.
I'm Sharon, one of the personal shoppers, stylists for Macy's Downtown Sacramento. I've been with the company 34 years. I started at the Sunrise Macy's in 1990 as a specialist for Jones, New York. I was with them for 6 years. From there, I went into personal shopping. They closed down the personal shopping service in Sunrise. So before coming to the downtown store, I sold furniture. In the furniture department, there was a gentleman there who had been with Macy's 34 years, which is the same age that I was at the time. And he told me that he originally opened up the downtown store, and that coincidentally, the same year that they built and opened the store was the same year I was born. I moved down to the downtown Sacramento Macy's in 2000, September 2000, and I've been at this store ever since. And with this store, it just seemed to have a much higher elevation of merchandise. It was similar to having a Macy's Union Square in Sacramento. It was very high-end merchandise. The traffic down here was extremely busy. I remember from Sunrise to downtown how it was like night and day. You went from kind of a slow, steady line of people to being bombarded with 10 people deep in line at all times. Just constant flow of people. It was always hustle and bustle. I've always loved fashion. I've always loved the Macy's Day Parade and being able to work at this store with the way that the business was back then, the way it was trending, how much people loved to come shop at this store. They would pass up Sunrise, they would pass up the Arden store, the Country Club store, just to come down to this store. So I always felt like this was a special place to be. Because it was a place I wanted to get to, because it was a place that was technically born the same year that I was born, it just made it feel even that more special.
Before it even opened, Macy's was already bragging about how wide the escalators in this store would be. In the 1960s, many escalators were skinny and known as single-file escalators. Very wide escalators, such as the ones installed in this store, were uncommon and were only manufactured by a few companies. Montgomery Elevator Company was one of them. These escalators are 48 inches wide, and they feature a design which, at the time, was a Montgomery exclusive design. It was called the 2 steps level entry, meaning the first 2 and the last 2 steps are perfectly leveled to make it easier for people to step on and off. This design was created for very busy settings such as train stations, malls, and department stores. Now, this is standard for almost all escalators installed today. These 4 units are capable of holding 7,900 pounds each, or 60 people. There's a little hallway behind activewear that has a couple of stock rooms and another former security hideout. Before we go upstairs, let's take a look at a few rooms down the employee hall to the left of the elevators. This is the visual room where all of the decorative elements for the store are made. The walls here are covered in paint outlines and various designs. At the very end of the hall, there is this electric scissor lift that has been parked in this spot for the entire time I've worked at this store. I always found it funny that the model number of this thing is the same as my channel numbers, which are not related in any way. This little room over here was a repair shop for all of the devices in the store, such as scanners, registers, and telephones. Here's a drinking fountain, and while it's just an ordinary looking fountain, it's only one of the 8 left that are still original to the store. It was manufactured by Hawes, and in the 60s and earlier, many drinking fountains were actually mounted to the ground. This specific model was advertised as an off-the-floor model, and they came equipped with coolers so the water will always be cold. Most of the people in the store stay away from these because they're old and the water isn't filtered. However, I've been building my immune system by drinking from these for almost 6 years. Wow, that's a lot of yapping about drinking fountains. I promise I'm not obsessed with those too, just elevators and escalators. Speaking of elevators, there's the freight elevator. Through that door straight ahead is just the toy stockroom that I was in earlier. Now let's head to the 3rd floor. It goes without saying that I'm going to take an elevator up there, but not just any elevator, a Montgomery elevator. A lot of people always wonder, why is there a 4th floor button and why doesn't it do anything? Well, that's because that floor doesn't even exist. When this store was built, there were plans for it to be 5 floors, including the basement. Montgomery included the 4th floor on the fixtures just in case another level was to be added later. Clearly, that never happened, so now there's just an imaginary floor. It's always funny hearing customers ask, "What's on 4?" The answer I always give is the sky.
I am Jason. I'm the Style and Merchandise Execution Manager here at the Downtown Macy's location. I actually started with Macy's in 2001 at the Roseville store in the receiving department. I came to this store in 2012 as the receiving manager. After coming here, I did receiving manager, sales manager, merchandise team manager, backstage store manager, business administration manager, and now style and merchandise execution manager. So pretty much everything in this store, I've done it. The best part about working here is just all the people that I've met along the way. I've met a lot of great friends that I still talk to this day, even though they no longer work here. One of the things that we used to do every month was a recognition rally. So we would basically have everybody come in early on a Friday and we would cook a big old breakfast for everybody. We would play games, we'd hand out awards. A lot of times we'd have a theme where we would dress up. So like for Halloween, you could wear your costume, or for Christmas in December, it would be ugly sweaters. It was just a really fun way for everybody to kind of get together and be together without it necessarily being work or feeling like work, and just a great way to connect with everybody and to really build those relationships. I used to put them together with one of our other managers, Sue.
And it was just always a lot of fun just planning them out with her and then just getting everything together, making that breakfast for everybody, and just seeing everybody having a lot of fun. This store means a lot to me. You know, it's essentially for the past 10 years or so, it's been my home away from home. You know, these people that I've worked with have essentially become my second family, and you know, it's really tough to see the store closing. It is a little bit hard to say goodbye. Just to everybody that I've met, even the people that don't work here anymore, you know, when I talk to them and they tell me that they've heard that the store is closing, and you know, we just start reminiscing about old memories. And you know, even though they were good times, it's really sad to see that the store is going to be closing. And I do feel like Sacramento is going to be losing an institution that's been here for over 50 years. So a little bit bittersweet, but you know, hopefully the future brings good things for Macy's and the downtown location.
This is the third floor, also known as my second home. At times, it felt like I spent more time on this floor, and more specifically this department, than I did at home. In my opinion, this has always been the most interesting floor because it has the most rooms to explore. Just like the other floors, this floor contained a very large amount of merchandise that isn't found in Macy's stores anymore. To name just a few of the things that used to be up here, there used to be a section for washers and dryers, refrigerators, air conditioners, radios, TVs, and even pianos. This is the houseware stockroom, and according to the original floor plans, this used to be where the appliances were. You can tell that the tile is very out of place for a stockroom, and the drop ceiling also gives it away. This line back here where the tile and the ceiling stop is most likely where the sales floor originally ended. This is the supply room. It used to be selling space, and you can still see the original lights along the wall. Inside of this room is the safe room. In addition to some old safes, it's full of other vintage equipment, such as this old coin sorter. now that we've seen the Textiles Department, let's check out some of the nearby stockrooms. This is the main stockroom entrance and where the freight elevator landing is located. This connects to the houseware stockroom and goes all the way around the floor back to the passenger elevators. Upon entering, there is a fixture storage room immediately to the left. Next up is the former cardboard chute room. This is now just another fixture storage room, but you can still see the chute door hidden behind some junk. The chute goes all the way down to the dock where the incinerator I showed earlier is located. Continuing around the corner is the awesome freight elevator and the rear entrance to the houseware stockroom. This is one of the most confusing hallways for new employees, and I've seen many of them get lost. For the ones who have been here for a while though, it's used as a nice shortcut to the freight elevator. This is the backstage stockroom. According to the original floor plans, this is where all of the cash wrap materials would be kept. It's mostly used for backstage fixture storage now. Through these double doors, the back of house area ends and it becomes general employee space. To my right is where the original employee break room used to be. It has since been moved and the space was converted into the houseware stockroom. To my left is one half of the training room, which, like every other empty space in this building, is now just used as storage. The next door is the other half of the training room, and it's what we use as the current training room. Across from it is the employee locker room. Here is my old locker. It's very hard to miss. To the left of the locker room is the former mail office. This gate used to be open and employees could access their mail from within the hall. Across from the mailroom are some manager offices. The original floor plans call this specific room the quiet room. Guess what it is now? Storage! Finally, at the end of the hall, we have the computer room for onboarding and register training. There are some small manager offices inside of this room that I won't show, but the entire layout of them used to be totally different. Here's a quick look of the employee restroom. This one and the women's one right next to it are the only restrooms in the whole store that haven't been redone. They still retain their original tiled walls and terrazzo floor. On the wall by the sinks, there's this weird metal box that's mounted high up. You wouldn't really guess what it is, but it's actually something called a gravity feed tank for soap dispensers. It would have been filled with soap, and gravity would bring the soap through a pipe down to the sink level where soap dispensers would be protruding from the wall. The dispensers themselves were replaced with motion-activated ones, but the feed tank still remains. Just another fun little fact about this place. And here we are back at the elevators. I just did a full circle, but only around half of this floor.
Hi, my name is Lisa Moniz, and I've been working for Macy's since May of 2004. I originally wasn't going to get a job at Macy's, but my friend was here to interview for a fine jewelry position, so I was just waiting for her to let out. And one of the managers came over to me and asked me if I would like to work in handbags, and I didn't think anything about it. I'm like, I am sure. I wasn't really looking for a job, but that's how I got my job. So I started in handbags. I liked the designer items, the new product that came out, especially with Coach and Michael Kors. And each season we would get new stuff, and we were very excited to see all the new shapes and sizes and colors. My position was erased due to changes in the department, and so they were no longer having a handbags department per se, and it was going to be at your service. And so they put me upstairs in housewares, which frightened me because I never worked with a lot of stuff that I don't have any experience with. I got comfortable right away, and the transition wasn't as hard as I thought it was, and I've been in housewares ever since. The store in itself is important to me because Macy's is so iconic. It is a large staple in this community, and Macy's has a large reputation. This store in particular was close to my job since I am a full-time state worker. It was easy for me to come to work after my other job, and it was very convenient. I feel a sense of loss that the store is closing because I've had so many good memories here with my coworkers, and I really like this store. It's my favorite store. I will really miss this store.
The furniture section used to take up much more space than it does now. There were 14 mock-up rooms for displays, exactly like IKEA, and in this area, there used to be a massive turntable that would complete 6 rotations per hour. It contained 4 mock-up rooms for customers to look at. Through this door is the former division executive offices. Most of the employees that sat in these cubicles never came back after COVID, so only a few of the rooms back here are still in use. It's kinda creepy back here because there's no music and the lights are very dim. This is the backstage department, which is where the boys and girls clothing along with maternity clothing used to be. Backstage opened at the store in 2018 and it's the only one in the Sacramento area, with the Stockton and Fairfield stores being the next closest. In the back of Backstage, there is a hallway leading to the restrooms. Also in this hallway is the sign room and the employee break room. This is the women's restroom, which is actually quite popular among customers because of how nice it is. I feel like a lot of people come into this store just so they could use it, but most of them don't know the history behind why it's so fancy. When the store first opened, there was a beauty salon and customer lounge. This restroom is all that remains of them. The section of this restroom that I'm currently in was originally the powder room. Moving on to the toilets, the floor-to-ceiling partitions still remain, but all of the marble sinks and gold-plated plumbing fixtures within them have been removed and replaced with bland and modern alternatives. Originally, you could walk through this hall of stalls and into a massive beauty salon. The beauty salon is now the employee break room. The sign room and the hallway leading to it used to be the customer lounge. Now you know. This hallway is where the store manager's office and employee services are located. This room is where you can control the store speakers, such as volume and turning off the music in certain sections of the store. You can even plug in your own phone and play your own music if you wanted to. I turned the music off in the entire store for this video, and now that I'm done, I'll turn it back on. Well, I think you should all now have a really good idea of what the outside and the inside of the store looks like. But what about the top of the store? You heard that right. Let's head to the roof, shall we? This is the top of the freight elevator. You can see the whole roof is covered in solar panels. This right here is the top of the passenger elevators. This is just a AC room. And this is where the breakers for the elevators are too. So this right here is really interesting because this is the top of the escalator well. As mentioned earlier in the video, there used to be a massive spiral staircase that was suspended from the ceiling in the middle of the escalator well. It contained mannequins and visual display elements. In the ceiling above, there were little motor hoists that will allow the lifting of these heavy displays onto the staircase. This room is where the hoist used to be. There's some more blueprints up here from the store. Do not go beyond the rail. Wonder how old that sign is. So when the store first opened, during the holidays they had lights that hung between all of these arches, and they hung from up here, and you can still see the hooks for where they used to be. And you can see the power, how the power ran. And there's like an event going on. I wonder if anyone down there notices that we're up here. This is the tallest accessible point of the store, right in the middle. It's going to be a very busy day today because all of the fixtures are now discounted and all of the apparel that we have left, which is not much, is only $2. So some of the stuff went from like $50 down to $2 just to get it out of here because we need to get rid of all of this stuff. This is all the clothes that we have left. So we went from 3 floors down to 1. Everything is down on the first floor. And these racks right here is all that we have left for apparel. It is 11 a.m. We just opened and look at the line for the elevator. It is crazy down here. This is the line to use the freight elevator. Bro. It's 5:30 and all of the clothes are gone. They sold in like the first hour.
All fixtures are now free. This includes shelving, racks, and tables. Jewelry is excluded. Happy shopping.
All of the letters are free. Pictures are free. I can't repeat this enough, folks. We are closing in 45 minutes. The pictures you're looking at are free. All Macy's merchandise is excluded. Coming in now.
The time is now 7 p.m. Macy's is now closed. I repeat, the time is 7 p.m. and Macy's is closed. Please make your final selections and head to the nearest exit.
That is a wrap. It is 7:30 p.m. We are closed. That is the last day for customers. But we got one more week here. So one of the things we have to do after we close is remove anything from the building that says Macy's on it. And that includes these handles, which are on almost every single door. We had to remove as much branding as possible from the store, most of which was in cosmetics and fragrances. It took 2 days to get rid of all of the logos and signage. Over the span of the week, we all spent hours getting rid of every single thing that remained in the store. Anything that wasn't sold ended up being thrown away, including all of the tables and racks that were left behind. We basically stripped the store down until there was nothing left. Well, it is March 31st. This is the last day at this store. We're closing up shop. But before we leave, I'm gonna do one more walkthrough. This right here used to be Wetzel's Pretzels. It was not open for long. This was originally Taste Bar when I started, and it closed after COVID, and it just reopened as Wetzel's Pretzels, only to close not even a year later. Right there used to be one of the Sacramento Mall exit signs. That was saved and will hopefully end up in the River District. This right here was handbags. Same with this. This was all handbags. Right here was At Your Service. Used to have some nice screens there. This was all jewelry. Cosmetics. Above this entrance is where the other Sacramento Mall exit sign was. That was saved by a lovely couple who will give it a good home. This right here was Mac. And across from it was Origins. This is women's shoes. And that blue wall back there was Finish Line. This is where all the cosmetics used to be. Still got the Finish Line logo on the register. Men's shoes right there. All of men's suits. Men's furnishings right there, all along the back. Club room. And polo. Alfani. Michael Kors. Still has the logo there. This was Cotton On. There's one of the fitting rooms. And the register. This was Levi's. There's an advertisement for the video you're watching right now. Level. Let's go to 2. This is where plus sizes used to be. And that right there is the fitting room, the only one on this floor that we had open. Plus sizes was on this side too. And all of this was kids. Infants right there. Girls and boys. When I first started, this was Style & Co. right here on this giant pad. This was like Tommy and Ralph Lauren. Man, it's just crazy seeing this place like this. This was Karen Scott. And all that was Toys R Us. I worked in this department a lot. This was Petites. Listen to how quiet it is. This was all Last Act right here. And on this pad right here, we would put swimsuits there during the summer and coats in the winter. This was all dresses. These pink walls, these were all dresses. Still have the lighting fixtures here. Those are just gonna stay. Juniors used to be there, and then it was on 34th. There's the second floor mall entrance. This used to be Active. right after the neon. That used to be Intimates. This was all intimate apparel along that back wall. And then this was sleepwear. And that door back there was personal stylists. There's watch repair. And this floor was where I spent many, many years of my life. This whole department you're looking at is where I spent more time than at my actual home. So this used to be housewares. This whole wall was top of table. And this was all gadgets. In the middle, you had cookware, the cheaper cookware, and then that pad behind is where the more expensive cookware was. And then you had luggage right here. When I first started, luggage was back there, and then it moved down to the first floor, and then it came back up here. And this is where it ended up being until the very end. This pad was where electrics were. All of that back there was furniture. So all of these gray pillars that you see, everything that's painted gray really, used to be this wood right here. This is where a price checker used to be. But since they removed it, you can see that's what the actual pole looks like. And they painted it gray. Criminal. So just imagine all of that looking like that wood. Would have looked so pretty. This is where I used to do a candy setup every holiday season. This was all furniture. And this is backstage. You can see another unpainted portion of that pole where another price checker used to be. And this used to be Textiles. This is where the quilts used to be. That whole wall back there was all Charter Club Damask. Then we had all the cheap sheets right there. And that whole back wall was towels. The pad I'm standing on, and that one was hotel. And we've had many things here. We had like UGG and what else have we had here? Ralph Lauren and Oak. This is where pillows and stuff used to be, pillows and down comforters. And then this was Last Act back here in the corner. Oh, still a price check sign right there. Let's break this silence and ride down this escalator. I'm really gonna miss this place.
Well, I just want to thank everybody that is watching this video and that's been part of this store, and just show just incredible gratitude for all of the memories and all of the contributions and all the happiness that you brought to the community, to the customers, and most importantly to everyone that's worked here. I truly believe that we'll leave our fingerprints on this city forever. And I'm just so grateful for everybody that's passed through this store. The store will never be forgotten. It'll be, the lore of Macy's for many years to come. And I'm so thankful again for all of those that have been a part of this adventure. I'm certainly going to miss it. This was our division offices as well for many years. And so there's lots of memories on so many different levels. And and just so grateful to be part of the downtown Sacramento Macy's. And I'm so grateful to have worked with everybody that perhaps is watching this, and those that were not part of this store. I know that you looked from afar and admired this beautiful building, and appreciate what memories this store has brought to so many people. So thank you, and wishing downtown Macy's Sacramento just the greatest send-off in the history of Macy's. Cheers to everybody. Thank you so much.